To be here, don't worry, mate, no worries.
I had an extraordinary experience. I was sitting with the boys one night and I heard a movement in their bathroom, and I went in. This young girl was there. She'd come up the pipe, and how she'd got up to the 8th floor, I have no idea. So they brought her in. They were very, very good. They were very good with their fans. They were excellent. In fact, they lived by their fans, because without their fans, they were nothing really. And this girl came in. We rang her mother, and she came and got her. But before she left, the boys cooked her a bit of a supper, gave her autographs, and she went off, a very happy girl.
They insisted that I stayed, and they insisted on taking me upstairs and giving me a cup of coffee, and wanted to get to know me better, wanted to talk to me. And the hotel was quite concerned about a girl my age being in the hotel rooms of young men.
Now we tend to think of the Beatles as being wild, radical rock and rollers and playing loud, noisy rock and roll music. In fact, if you look at the set that they played in Australia, and if you look at the tracks that they were recording at the time, the Beatles were really part of a fine and long tradition of popular music purveyors. The Beatles recorded A Taste of Honey. The Beatles recorded and played in Australia Till There Was You from The Music Man.
This is one that we first heard in a show called The Music Man. We hope you like the song. Hope you like it. It's called Till It Was You. There were bells on her head, but I never heard them ringing. No, I never heard them at all. Till there was you. There were birds in the sky, but I never saw them winging.
Oh, I never heard it at all, till there was you.
The Beatles were very spontaneous in their vocal style. They were witty, they were amusing, and they were actually quite sophisticated. Not so the Australian media, kind of bumbling and stale. They were often outwitted. You know, and in fact, when you see some of the old clips of the Beatles being presented with didgeridoos at awkward moments and not quite knowing where to put them, or being asked to look at one camera while they were, they're being questioned in another direction, I think that just shows you that the media at that time, they were anxious to package and exploit the Beatles, but they really didn't understand them.
Oh, look. Oh, we see one there. Stay where you are, the big bomb. See, message. Oh, it's a woman. Yes, that's nice.
Please, 1 minute for the children. Before we start...
Paul, what do you expect to find here in Australia?
Australians.
Have you been practicing up your Australian accent?
No, Colin, not at all.
We can't get it, you know. Do you have any acknowledged leader of the group?
No, not really.
Out of John and Paul, John, who writes the music and who writes the lyrics?
We both write both, you know. It depends who's humming and who's writing at the time.
But so you were jammed into the front entrance.
There's two people asking me questions now. Excuse me, while I sort it out.
John, if you hadn't been a Beatle, or if the Beatles hadn't been successful, what career would you have chosen?
I probably would have been in prison.
Do you find the crowds nerve-wracking? Was there any moments at all that you were worried about today?
Well, I was rather worried when I was laying on the floor.
At what stage were you laying on the floor?
Trying to get into the hotel.
Does mass reaction from a crowd, like you had here in Melbourne today, really worry you? Do you regard it as social misbehaviour, or do you still want to...
We love it, you know, it's good. We've been told not to turn around, you see.
Oh,
we love it. So we got to, it's a bit mad, we got to look this way and talk to him.
Now, you mentioned Brian, I was going to mention it. How did you get associated with Brian Epstein, and how much do you feel you owe him?
Well, we owe him 1 and 6, exactly.
Are you individually millionaires yet?
No, that's another lousy room. I wish we were.
Brian Epstein a millionaire.
No, even he's not one, poor fellow.
Where does all the money go?
Well, a lot of it goes to Her Majesty.
She's a millionaire. I'll get you anything, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. But I don't get too much for money. Money can't buy me love. I give you all I've got to give, everything you love me true. I may not have a lot to give, but I got I'll give to you. But I don't get too much for money. Money can't buy me love. Can't buy me love. Everybody tell me so. Can't buy me love. No, 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 no. Say you don't need a diamond ring, and I'll be satisfied. Tell me that you want that kind of thing that money just can't buy. But I don't get too much for money. Money can't buy me love. Wow!
After the performance, we used to have a regular trick where the performance would be over and we played God Save the Queen, which they used to do in those days. And of course, all the kids were automatically trained to stand. Everyone stood for God Save the Queen. And it was the first time they went quiet at any of the performances. And while they were standing for God Save the Queen, the Beatles were off the stage, out the door, in the car, and away.
I went around afterwards to the back, but of course they'd already, you know, like Elvis had already left the building, so so you couldn't get to see them. But I don't think I would ever be adventurous enough to sort of try and smuggle myself into a hotel. Although I'd probably do it for, you know, Dustin Hoffman now.